Welcome to Between the Shelves, the premier Sable Library podcast. I am your host, Alex, and this episode I am joined by Tim.
Hello.
And Kristina.
Hello.
Thank you both for being here. Now, September 22nd is International Hobbit Day, so we're going to do an episode on The Hobbit and J.R.R. Tolkien and all of his oeuvre. So I need both of you to be my Tolkien experts on this episode.
Done.
Okay, good.
Both of us.
So, The Hobbit, if you haven't read it, it came out in 1937, so September 21st. So we're actually coming up on the 86th anniversary
That's
of
just
the book.
a random number, isn't it?
That's a big 8-6.
I hate when they do that. Sorry.
But it is the 50th anniversary of J.R.R. Tolkien's death.
Oh,
It's
okay.
1973,
Yeah.
September 2nd. So we
Couple
just
days ago.
just passed it. Yeah. So I want to talk about it in this episode, a little bit about the Hobbit specifically. But we can talk about Lord of the Rings too. I mean, they all kind of blend together quite a bit, actually. But I want to talk about the book. We can talk a little bit about the movies, but there's one movie in particular that I want to talk about, which we all saw before recording this episode, right? I'm trying to get eye contact.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, absolutely.
It is the 1977 animated edition of The Hobbit, which is very interesting. Going back on it now, I watched it as a kid many, many times. Hadn't seen it since then, and I think all three of us have a lot to talk about that. Yeah, so let's just get started. I mean, I'm just going to go into this assuming our listeners are not Tolkien aficionados. I know even here at the staff, on our staff, many people have not read The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, which I don't know about you, but I consider it essential reading.
I think it's for a kid.
Yes.
Yes. For an adult, that might be a hard one.
I reread it last week in preparation for this episode because I am a professional podcaster now.
Wow.
It comes first in my priorities.
Gotcha.
And I think it still holds up. You can read it as an adult.
I think so too.
I think it's about the same reading level as Harry Potter. You know, you can read Harry Potter as an adult and still not feel like it's talking down to you. But I'm just getting, I want to get your sense, when did you read The Hobbit for the first time? Were you a child, teen? What do you remember, your experience?
I do. It was actually right before The Fellowship came out in the movie theater. I had seen a trailer for it. I was like, I have to see this movie. And my dad was like, well, before you see this movie, you have to read The Hobbit. It's a prequel. And I was like, okay. And I distinctly remember we went to this bookstore in Rocky Point. I think it was called Oak Tree Books. And I got this little tiny paperback of The Hobbit. It was probably, that would have had to have been early 2000. So I was 11. Mm-hmm. And I devoured it in a day.
Yeah.
So, but.
What about you, Tim?
I have no memory.
No memory whatsoever?
Well, so I have clear memories of reading Lord of the Rings, these dusty old Lord of the Rings books that were from an attic that probably belonged to my dad, but who knows. And that was when I was probably 13 or 14. And those books, I distinctly remember because I have a dust allergy, so I would read them and just cry, like tears and snot, and it was just terrible. But I love those books, and they were some of my favorite books still to this day. But The Hobbit, I have no clear memory of reading. I know I read it. If I read it before or after, I couldn't say which one. Great book that I remember, but just not as fondly as I remember Lord of the Rings books.
Yeah. My story is a little bit similar to Kristina's. I was reading other fantasy books. I was probably around the same age, maybe 10-ish, around there. I don't remember the movies being a thing. So I think it was before they announced the Lord of the Rings movies. But I was reading the Dragonlance series, the fantasy books, and then my dad said, if you like this, you should read The Hobbit. And I'm like, okay, whatever, old man. I like my stories. But then I was thinking about it, and then I don't know why, but my grandmother would watch us when we were young, and I was at her house, and she pulled out like a book of my dad's old stuff from like the 70s, I guess, and pulled out his edition, like his copy of The Hobbit that he read when he was a kid, which had like all of his notes in it and everything. So that's the first edition I read. And I still remember it so clearly. It was a mass market paperback, and it was like crumbling apart. And the cover was a watercolor painting of Bilbo riding the barrels down the river. Spoiler alert. Yeah, it was really, really cool. So I read that, loved it. Same thing. I didn't read it in a day, but I remember I read it briskly. And then I remember I was in Boston not long after, and there was a bookstore that I would always go to at the mall. Like that was kind of like we'd go to Boston like once a month. And it was maybe it was the edition that you read. It was the Lord of the Rings set, and like they were all paperbacks, and like the Hobbit was black, Fellowship was green, Two Towers was purple, and Return of the King was red. And they all had like the iconic like oil painting like covers, and they were so I begged my parents to buy that book set for me, and which they did, and then that was the edition that I had all the way through high school that I probably read multiple times.
I do want to recommend, because I reread it a few years back, and it was the illustrated version, which was much larger, hardcover illustrated, and I think it was illustrated by Alan Lee, who's like one of the quintessential Tolkien illustrators. And that version, I love that version. Just his drawings, paintings, illustrations are amazing. So
yeah,
that definitely helps especially if you're a first time reader of it. Just getting into the fantasy of it helps with that.
Yeah, Alan Lee, his paintings, they based the Lord of the Rings movies, a lot of it off of his paintings. Mm-hmm. So his vision of Lord of the Rings is like the definitive vision of Lord of the Rings. But I had a book called Tolkien's World that I got as a Christmas present when I was probably, 12, 13, 14. It was this beautiful, huge hardcover book of all of his paintings that were from The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, which we don't really have to get into that. That's advanced.
Silmarillion or Silmarillion?
Silmarillion. Yeah, I always called it Silmarillion.
Right, I just wanted to make sure, just for clarification. Not that I ever even read it, but okay.
I did read it recently, and it's not a very fun read. I'll say
dense,
that.
Very dense.
Yeah.
I started it once, and that's it.
But yeah, that Tolkien's World book, if you can find it, it's beautiful. It's just giant.
They did an exhibit at the Morgan maybe like 4 or 5 years ago of all of Tolkien's paintings and stuff on display.
Because he did his own illustration paintings.
And they've started releasing, I think The Hobbit illustrated by Tolkien is coming out next week, but they just did Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion with his illustrations in it.
Triple threat right there.
He did it all.
Writer, illustrator, professor.
Language creator.
Yeah. Quadruple threat.
So I have a couple of facts while we're talking facts, about Tolkien. So you mentioned he was a professor. He taught Anglo-Saxon philology and literature at Oxford when he wrote The Hobbit. And the school library journal has The Hobbit as the 12th best children's book of all time.
I can see that.
Which I think is kind of low. But
what's the first?
Charlotte's Web was number one.
That is a classic.
It's a classic.
Yes.
There was a few questionable ones above The Hobbit. I don't remember exactly what they were.
Well, I'm sure Harry Potter's...
yeah, that was 4 or 5.
Yeah. That was Scholastic. Not that they didn't publish Harry Potter, so...
Interesting.
Yeah, a little bias right there.
So yeah, I mean, what were your general... So what age would you say is appropriate? Like 11, 12, right around there?
My daughter's 8, so we watched the movie together last night. Oh, really? Yeah. So, and she was into it. I'll get to all the other stuff when we start talking about that. But as far as like reading the book, I could see her, it might be a little advanced for her, but I could see her listening to the audiobook. Mm-hmm. And really, because she loves a good audiobook. So I could see her listening to it and getting a lot out of it.
It's a book that's written in a way that can be read aloud and enjoyed that way, like almost like it's like an oral tradition, sort of,
which would make sense for
writing
Tolkien.
Style.
Yeah, it's episodic because he told it to his children that way.
Right.
So
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like it was just like a story he was like telling his children.
Interesting. I know he was friends with Lewis Carroll at Oxford, so they wrote, or Tolkien wrote The Hobbit while Lewis Carroll, I believe, was writing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. I always get them mixed up. All right, I'll edit that to
Yeah,
make me sound...
They're BFFs, and Treebeard is based on C.S. Lewis.
Oh, that's great.
I'm learning a lot. See, I knew I brought in the Tolkien experts.
Should we describe that Kristina is wearing her own... Is it your own handmade?
No, this was all purchased.
This is a Hobbit outfit that is pretty remarkable.
Yes.
I mean, it is.
You also have Lord of the Rings ink on your skin.
Yes.
So you couldn't have gotten out of this episode if you wanted to. You were the first choice. Do you have a Lord of the Rings tattoo as well?
No, but I've always wanted
You
one.
have a fantasy tattoo, though.
No. It's a sword.
Oh, I do have the sword, on my arm. But I always wanted to, when you look up Lord of the Rings tattoos, there's not that many ones that I would find interesting. So I love his initials are iconic. It's the R and the J and
the Jert.
But I'm very hesitant to get anyone's initials that aren't like blood relatives tattooed on me, and even that, because you never know what could come out.
It's true.
And there are things coming out about... I mean, there's just, with the Lord of the Rings specifically, of just some of questionable things.
He's been around long enough for, like, the majority of his skeletons.
Yes, and he's from he grew up in a time when that's pretty
And it's pretty
common.
easy to get tattoos of literary works that you no longer agree with covered up.
So I've heard from other people. So. Anywho.
So why do you think The Hobbit is so timeless? I mean, why are we reading it 86 years later? What about the book makes it stand the test of time, I guess? I mean, I'll just start. I think it's like a perfect book for kids around that age because the main character is this like frightened small creature who is experiencing the world for the first time. So it's the perfect viewpoint into a fantasy world where
it's how I live every day.
But it's a book about being brave too.
Yes.
Showing courage.
And not heroic bravery. It's showing you like what bravery actually is, which is even you can be afraid. Bravery is being afraid and then going ahead with it anyways. Right. It's not about, what the fantasy books were pre-Hobbit, where it's just barbarian men rescuing the damsel in distress, whatever, from... You know what I mean?
Which were rare too, anyways. There weren't really... I feel like that fantasy genre was really barely a thing.
Before The Hobbit?
Before The Hobbit.
Right.
It's hard to come up with like examples that you can just name off the top of your head, like maybe Beowulf, but that's even super old. Right. So I think he is credited for the high fantasy, really the creation almost of the high fantasy genre, which started with The Hobbit. But Lord of the Rings was kind of being thought up at the same time, right? Expert Kristina, please.
I think sort of. I don't think that just because based on the way that The Hobbit is originally written, didn't intend for it to be like a direct sequel to The Hobbit, because the 1937 edition of The Hobbit is different than the ones we read today, because he did them sort of, add a lot of things to make the connections to Lord of the Rings stronger.
Which is interesting, too, that it's just over, so it's almost 100 years since that original book came out, but it's still, so it is timeless because I feel like he just, it's a classic tale of adventure, again, bravery, courage, and it, watching the movie last night, I feel like it does kind of get overly complicated towards the end, but that first half is really pretty straightforward. It's a very basic story of like, here I am, Gandalf, you're coming with me, and here's a bunch of dwarves, and let's go. Let's get out of here and go on an adventure. Like, it's really straightforward. Yeah, and this is something I was talking about with Kristina earlier. The first, I would say even 3/4 of the book even are just that perfect adventure tale where they just keep plodding along to like adventure to adventure to adventure, and then the very end gets very convoluted and dense. Yeah.
And I didn't remember any of that when I reread it. I completely forgot the ending of The Hobbit.
The Battle of the Five Armies part?
Right.
Yeah.
Which the recent Peter Jackson remakes of the Hobbit films, the entire third film is the last 2 chapters of the book, basically, and I didn't remember any of that happening.
I just absolutely hate those movies. But the idea of a gigantic battle, this five armies battle, yeah, something like that could be an entire movie, I guess, on its own because it's so epic. But it feels like kind of shoehorned into this very basic tale of like go on an adventure, you meet some people, you keep moving, you go.
It doesn't seem to fit in the same book almost, because the whole book of The Hobbit, again, spoilers, it's just it's a very small story. It's a small group of 13 travelers, 14 with Gandalf.
I think it's 15 with Gandalf.
15.
Yeah.
It's a small party.
Bilbo's the lucky 14th.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Who throughout most of the story, they're not doing anything heroic, or even there aren't even very few action scenes in the book. They're mostly hiding or starving or cowering or running away
or singing
or doing more hiding, or telling riddles in the dark.
Right.
So, and then for the book to end with an enormous battle and deaths and things.
That part is just very, not jarring, but yeah, it's just feels very out of place, which I never thought about until watching the movie last night and being like, and I saw the movies, the Peter Jackson movies, didn't really think of it in that context at all. But then I think it works better in the book than the movie a little bit, but it still is kind of out of place for what is basically a kid's book.
Yeah, the Peter Jackson Hobbit films took a lot of liberties and stretched a lot of things out that were unnecessary. The battle,
to put it mildly.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a completely non sequitur question, but I wanted to ask it anyway. So when I read the Hobbit as a child, I imagined Gollum as a lizard creature. And I don't know why, because he's never described really that way in the book. And I'm just curious, what did you imagine? Do you remember what you thought Gollum was like before you saw the movies?
So I don't really imagine things when I read books. So I don't really have an answer.
Interesting.
I couldn't say, because again, I have very little vague memory of reading that. But I think it was watching the animated movie, their interpretation of what he looked like was super different than what I would have thought.
Because he's a little frog guy.
He's a frog, yeah. He's basically a frog. And I think Julia, my daughter, was kind of like very creeped out by how he looked, because he looked like a weird lizard. She's like, what is that? And I'm like, it's Gollum. Yeah, she's like, but what is he? I'm like, I couldn't tell you in this. Or like, trying to explain like, oh, he's a man or a hobbit that just basically over 1,000 years got changed into a lizard. Like he looked, like you're saying, like a lizard. Yeah. Or a toad. And I never pictured it in that way necessarily. So yeah, there's a weird interpretation there.
Yeah, it struck me when I was watching the film that he looked in the animated film how I imagined him when I was reading the book initially. So I'm wondering, like, did I read a different edition or something than other people? Because, Kristina, you talked about this already. Tolkien rewrote parts of The Hobbit and republished it when The Lord of the Rings were coming out to have it sync up better with that story. And I think one of the things he changed was the Gollum scenes.
Yeah, like he did like major reworking of those. I think in the original he gifts Bilbo the ring. Instead of Bilbo finding it, and
so it keeps the grudge going basically into the Lord of the Rings.
Makes sense.
Okay, so sorry, and thank you for entertaining that non sequitur. I have another non sequitur. The eagles in The Hobbit. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this when I was reading it and then watching the movie again. Are the eagles in not only The Hobbit but also Lord of the Rings the greatest example of Deus Ex Machina in all of literature?
So the giant eagles that come out and save the day twice.
At least twice in The Hobbit, and
just in The Hobbit
probably
alone.
a dozen times throughout Lord of the Rings.
I always I love fantasy, so I always loved that part. Like, but yes, it's pretty ridiculous that they just come out of nowhere and show up and save them.
It's so funny. It's like a meme. And it's always epic too. Like it gets me every time. Yeah. I'm like, how are they going to get out of this situation? And it's always the Eagles
showed up.
It's like, of course.
When you're as well connected as Gandalf, you always have a couple of favors up your sleeve.
Yeah, really. And the whole reason they explain it in The Hobbit is Gandalf saved the King Eagle's life, and it's like, okay, you repaid the favor. So why did you keep doing it like 15 more times? I don't know. I just thought that was funny that it's always the Eagles.
It's always the Eagles.
Any other thoughts about the book The Hobbit before we put the book to rest and go to the magical?
I don't think so. I just it's a great book. And I think, I do think like every kid should read it because but it also, I don't know, so one of the things in the books is as I mentioned before, the songs that just like interrupt everything.
Yes.
I actually never liked the songs in the book. I always just skimmed past it because it just felt like it was breaking up any momentum in the story. Yeah. So that's one thing that I feel like I don't know how a kid would interpret it now. So if I do get my oldest daughter to read it, it'd be interesting to see what she thinks. I feel like with the movie, which had their version of the songs, she didn't mind it, but it's interesting. It's just interesting to have something like that in a book that's just so
it helps when the songs rhyme. When they don't rhyme, it's really jarring.
Or when they're like 2 pages long and then 3 pages of continuous. I don't know, Kristina, what do you think?
I didn't really like them as a child either, and I mean they're in Lord of the Rings too.
Yes.
It's just
not as many though. I feel like
something Tolkien likes, but those songs. Definitely standouts from the movies, all of them.
Definitely, I have a few of the songs that I will play on this episode when we get to the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, the songs are interesting. They definitely break the momentum a little bit, but they are. I wonder if it's just Tolkien's fascination because he's a scholar of Beowulf and Anglo-Saxon philology and literature. So it's just part of like why these books are so great. They're just so personal to Tolkien. Like he just loves this stuff. So, I don't know, you can kind of tolerate the poems.
You can tolerate them.
But they aren't essential to the plot, so you could skip them and pick up right where you left off.
That's why it's interesting that they're scattered throughout the book. And it does go into a bit of world building for the books, which I always love good world
building. And characterization with Bilbo. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
Yeah, it's true.
If you are going to read The Hobbit now, the audiobook is great. Mm-hmm. And the song, whoever the audiobook narrator is, sings the songs as well, and he does a fantastic job.
Is it not Andy Serkis?
It's not. I didn't read that or listen to that one, but I forget who his name is. I'm sorry. I'll put the link into our show notes, but he does the songs very, very well, and they don't really break the flow as much when you're listening to it as reading it. All right. Well, I think we've covered the classic book, The Hobbit. So let's go to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the movie. And we're back. So I would like to discuss the 1977 Hobbit movie, animated version. So just a little background about this movie, and Kristina, feel free to jump in because I know you know as much as I do about this. Again, it came out in 1977. It was directed, it was a Rankin and Bass production, who did The Last Unicorn. It was another one of their famous films, and The Return of the King.
And the holiday specials, right?
The Star Wars holiday specials?
No, just like the general. Like,
oh, yes. Like, right. Yeah. Which I just want to
like Santa Claus is coming to town.
Yeah. I always thought it was one person, Rankin Bass. And then the movie came up with the title card, and I'm like, Rankin and Bass? Okay, just...
It's like Rankin Jr. and Bass, too.
Did not know that.
So they're an animation studio, or Are they a studio? I don't even know. Are they the directors?
I think they're the producers.
Yeah, I don't think it's a
I don't
studio.
really understand how movies are made.
Well, especially those animated movies from the 70s.
Yeah. It was just magic that they were
They're
throwing
not
together.
the writers, because there's a different guy wrote it because he was nominated for a Hugo for it.
I had his name and it's lost in the notes. Yeah, it won. Well, you already mentioned it. It won a Hugo Award for Best Drama. It was nominated for a Hugo Award for Best Drama. It lost to Star Wars.
Wow.
That's fair.
That completely forgettable.
Yeah, right. Like we haven't done multiple episodes on that already. The screenplay for this film won a Peabody Award, which I thought was very interesting.
That's a head scratcher for me.
I don't know what a Peabody Award is.
Writing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Writing. Good writing.
Good writing.
This
It
movie's
has
good.
This movie has good writing.
This movie is certified good.
One more note about this. One trivia that I think both of you will appreciate. So the animation studio that made this, they were called Topcraft Animation, and they would later become Studio Ghibli.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of in the designs of the characters.
In the
You can
characters, for
see
sure.
Like the goblins and stuff.
What I would like to know is it the same studio that did Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring animated?
So that's a good point. Let's get into that. So there were animated films for The Lord of the Rings as well. Now, the company that did this, The Hobbit, originally had plans to do a 2-part film to do the entire Lord of the Rings series. So part 1, called The Lord of the Rings, came out by the same company, which was made by, which only covered the Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers. Right. And I believe it was released on NBC. It aired on NBC. No, I'm sorry. The Hobbit aired on NBC. This was a movie that came out. It was not successful, so they canceled making a part 2. But Ralph Bakshi, the famous animator.
Yes, that's who I'm thinking.
Bakshi? Is it Bakshi?
Something close to that.
He did Fritz the Cat, Heavy Traffic, and Wizards. Those were his big films.
Heavy Traffic? Heavy Metal?
No, Heavy Traffic. It's a different.
Oh, okay.
Very adult film, not for kids. Anyways, so he was tapped to do The Return of the King, which is going to be the last part. Then that kind of fell through, and yeah, it was just a big debacle, really. But they finally did produce The Return of the King, the final film, which aired on ABC.
So the fact that The Hobbit was on, I knew it. You could tell that it was originally on broadcast TV because of the
commercial breaks.
Clear commercial breaks of fade to black and then fade back in. And it was just like, oh, this is not a theatrical release.
No, I completely didn't realize that when I watched it as a kid on VHS, that it was originally aired on NBC.
I feel like we were probably immune to commercial breaks like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was just something we saw all the time, so it
wasn't
even
as
register.
disturbing.
Yeah.
But it's very noticeable watching it now, where the music just goes da-da-da-da, and then it fades to black, and you're like, what is this, a Scooby-Doo cartoon? But yeah, so it did air on NBC. So yeah, what did you think about the movie? What are your general thoughts?
I realized watching it last night that I never saw it before.
Wow.
Yeah, because I would have remembered. I got it mixed up with the Lord of the Rings movie, which I really like. I haven't seen that in probably 10 plus years though. And watching this, I really did not like it. The animation I love animation, especially actual 2D hand animation. But there was a lot that I didn't like about it. Quite a lot. And I think it's pretty different. The plot is the same as the books, but it feels like it's edited very differently from how the books flow. Yeah. For just and again, it makes sense though, because it was on broadcast TV and it's very much a product of the 70s, extremely. If it came out in 77, that means they started working on it probably in 74 or 75, and oh yeah, you could feel that.
Kristina, what are your thoughts? Just your broad thoughts.
Just my broad thoughts. I remember not liking it as a child. I remember being afraid of the goblin scene. But this time around, it was fine. It was pretty faithful to the book, which was good. But the characterization, I don't know if this is just because I love Bilbo. He seems so annoying in the cartoon, and I never felt that way about him before. So I don't know.
That was, I had the same note. I'm looking for it now. Oh, yeah. I could really do without Bilbo's cheeky fourth wall breaking commentary. That was one of my notes I have here. He breaks the fourth wall so many times. He just looks at the cameras.
Yeah.
But, yeah, other than that, I agree. I didn't hate this movie. It was fine. It was fun. It's certainly no replacement for reading the book. Even though it does hit all the major plot points, it's no replacement for reading the book. I think if you read the book and you like the book, this is definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm glad I watched it just to be like, okay, I definitely didn't see this when I was a kid because I would have remembered it. But overall, I don't know. It's just the music, Lord, the music, the songs.
Some of the songs are incredibly good. I wanted to say something, but I forgot what it was.
Would you like to listen to a track while you think about it?
Yes.
So I have 2 tracks from the film here. One of them is, we've talked about the poems that earlier. So the dwarves break out into song many times throughout the book. And I think they did a pretty good job of capturing that in this movie. Here's one of the tracks now. I think it's called Cold Mountain. But it's the dwarves. Oh, it's called Misty Mountain Cold.
Under the mountain dark and tall, the king has come into his hall. His foe is dead, the worm of dread, and ever so his foe shall fall. The sword is sharp, the spear is long.
Is it opening song?
No, this is when they're going to the Misty Mountains. I think right before the goblins.
This and the first song when they first show up.
That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
I do love those 2 songs. Those are both great songs.
In the Peter Jackson Hobbit, I think that they did the Misty Mountain song much better.
Yeah, great, and I love that version too. Of that, that movie did those 2 songs pretty well.
But I think this captures the feel of the dwarven songs. Like, they're very slow paced. Sure. And yeah, that was just a little taste of that. It's not my favorite song from the soundtrack, but I think they did a good job of at least capturing the poetry. Kristina, did you think of?
No, I don't even know if it was like a real thought or like a quip or what. It's gone. I'll think of it later, I'm sure.
Well, I have another track here that I think we like a little bit more when the action picks up a little bit. So this track is called Down, Down to Goblin Town, which is just a certified classic.
It's what the kids would call a banger.
What's not to like about this?
I think, again, this is another song that's passable, but then there's other songs that are really 70s
Yes.
of just describing, I think, what's going on
Yeah.
in the movie while you're watching
Yeah,
it.
in the notes that I made while watching it, I was like, yeah, why is all the music so 70s specific? Like, why didn't they even try to make it, like, timeless?
Yeah.
The song that I think you're referencing to is called The Great Adventure.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen the movie A Mighty Wind?
Yeah. It's been a while.
But you know the Christopher Guest movie where it's like the folk music convention? That song reminds me. It could be dropped into that movie.
Absolutely.
Perfectly. It's just the cringiest,
70s folk.
I guess 70s,
Yeah.
like late 60s folk music, and it's just so bad.
It's bad. So yeah, there's a lot of that scattered throughout the movie that is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, which I think adds to the aesthetic. Like, this movie is just a trip.
I remember what I wanted to say. I was going to say, I think that the problem is that it's not a book that should be adapted necessarily. It's not like good for the visual medium. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's told in like little episodes, kind of.
It's a very evocative book to read, at least for me, but you're right. Like, most of the book it's just them trudging and struggling on their journey, and it's dotted with moments of them cowering from monsters,
or being captured
by
several
monsters.
times over.
Yeah.
I think animated is definitely the way to go after seeing the Peter Jackson debacle of his interpretation of The Hobbit, which originally would have been Guillermo del Toro, and I think that could have been a really great version, but I think there was something going on with the studio at the time, and he had to back out. But I do think if they ever did make another version of this, which they will, someone will at some point, just because there's money to be made, and they don't, if it's Warner Brothers, they will never lose that license. What it would be great is seeing a new animated version, maybe serialized. So like if it was several episodes of a TV show, I think that could work.
And Bilbo can still be voiced by Martin Freeman because he's the best
not?
Bilbo.
Yeah. But I do think like we will see another interpretation of this at some point. I hope that it would be animated and not a movie, like just spread out a little bit, a miniseries.
Yeah, I agree. I think animation works well for these books. That said, the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies are fantastic. And I think partly because they relied slightly less on CGI than the Hobbit movies. It seemed like the Hobbit movies that kind of churned out faster. I don't know. I haven't seen them in years, but I just remember them being so CGI heavy that it kind of lost the magic a little bit.
I think they were in like that part in that time frame where we decided that CGI was always the way to go over practical effects, and then everybody was complaining about how awful the CGI looked, and then kind of just doubled down on it, so it got even worse somehow. And now we've circled back around to practical effects.
Yeah. So it would have, in an alternate universe, it would have been interesting to see the Guillermo del Toro version of The Hobbit, because he relies so much on practical effects.
Exactly. And I think to that point, I feel like that's like the straw that broke the camel's back in the movie industry, where it was like after that and some of the Star Wars movies, it's like, okay, we're going to swing back to more practical effects for the better, because
It's like that
such a muddied mess.
Uncanny Valley thing.
Mm-hmm. And done. I think they rushed those movies, and they
I don't know if they were rushed. I think they were worked on for a really long time.
The actual filmmaking part, though. Did you ever see the Lindsay Ellis
Yes,
YouTube series? Because she did
Alex
talk about
to
it. It's a
watch.
pretty amazing. Lindsay Ellis does a YouTube deep dive into, I think, all three of them.
Yeah.
Video essays.
There are 3 video essays.
Plus interviews with some of the people that worked in the movies, and it's just incredible. And highly recommend watching those if you're interested in like how big of a mess those movies were when they were being made.
I'll put a link to those videos in the show notes as well. But I think one thing we haven't talked about in regards to the movies are the length of time, like the length of the movies. So this animated film is 80 minutes, 90 minutes at the most?
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty short.
Yeah.
But the live action remakes, there's 3 movies that are all longer than over 2 hours long. So I think there's a happy balance in between. I mean, the animated films move along very briskly. It's almost like a montage of The Hobbit. Mm-hmm. Like it's not showing any of the journey in between places. It's just showing the highlights, which is fine for a kids movie. But if you want to do a tribute to the book, you want to include some of that journey part of it too, which is such a good part.
Right. The pacing is a little weird though in this movie. Once you get to the kind of the pivotal part of the entire book, of the Gollum scene. After having these other scenes come and go in like a clip, and then spending like all the time like on that one scene, which is probably the time it deserves. It is like a little weird of having all these other things just bing, bang, boom. And then you're like 5, 6, 7 minutes in this one scene. It's funny how they edit it that way, but it is important to the story.
Yeah. But then to finish my thought, the Hobbit remake, the Peter Jackson Hobbit films, we already talked about this a little bit, but they pad out so much of the story and add so much filler that it loses its momentum, and they add so many goofy decisions just to fill up to make it seem like it warrants a trilogy, when it really doesn't. No. I think the Hobbit story could be told in a single movie, which I think this animated movie showed. You know, if it had maybe a bigger budget and was allowed to stretch it.
2 hours. Kids can sit through 2 hours if it's good.
Yeah.
If it's good. If it's not, then...
I think we can blame Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows for...
1 and 2?
Yeah, the decision to split these. And also how I think successful the changes they made in Lord of the Rings films made them kind of like...
confident?
That they could do it. But like, yeah, the changes that they made were like based on the book, or just introducing another character earlier because the character that does the thing doesn't really come up ever again, so it's not important. Instead of just introducing random characters.
Creating new characters.
Creating entirely new characters that sort of muddy up the intentions of other characters later down the line.
So many bad decisions.
All right, so any closing thoughts we have about The Hobbit? I still believe it's a must-read for children, or even adults. If you like fantasy
If you like fantasy, you should definitely read it.
It's a pretty quick read, too. I mean, it's not, you can't finish it in a day unless you have...
As a child, I was known for finishing books in a day. I didn't really have much else to do.
Yeah, I was going to say. If you're an adult and you have adult responsibilities, you probably can't finish it in a day. But it's a nice read, and the chapters aren't too long, and it is episodic, so it's very easy to pick up and put down. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it still offers something for adults too.
Absolutely.
And I think we settled on the ideal age if you are a kid, if you want to recommend it for your kids, probably 10-ish, right? Probably about this right age.
I think so.
Yeah.
Now the movie. Who do we recommend the movie for?
The 1977 version, like I kind of recommend the first movie. What did they have a name for the first one? The Peter Jackson. No, sorry, the Peter Jackson.
An Unexpected Journey, I think.
Yes.
Okay. That's not like the first half of that's pretty decent. So I would kind of recommend that, but it's hard to recommend that. Definitely don't recommend any of the other two movies at all. But the 77 one, that's a hard recommendation too, I think, I will say, my daughter did like it. So she wasn't in love with it, but it kept her attention, and she was interested in seeing how it ended. So I could see kids kind of liking it too, for the weirdness of it.
Yeah, kids definitely like weird things.
Yeah.
And it's so of its time. Like there's nothing that looks like that nowadays.
No.
With watercolor backgrounds.
Well, that's I was very much just like, oh, the backgrounds for this are definitely watercolor with ink and very unique.
Yes, and if you're a fan of Studio Ghibli films, the character design, at least the monsters, are very Studio Ghibli.
For sure. The cat Smaug.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, we didn't even talk about
that. I really love that interpretation of that scene, of the whole of Bilbo being in his lair, the dragon's lair. I thought that was fantastic and very
spotlight
eyes, and it was actually pretty tense, and I think they did a great job of making it like kind of scary, but then Bilbo just he's not scared at all, which is maybe that's the bad interpretation part, but like
honestly, having reread the books very recently, it was very true to the book. Like Bilbo by the end is not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
He got that ring. He can be invisible. Yeah. He's already being corrupted.
I think one of the things that I absolutely love. So this is as someone that loves fantasy, loves Dungeons and Dragons, before I even knew what Dungeons and Dragons were, the burglar dwarf, like it's a really good introduction to like Dungeons and Dragons kind of formed from a lot of Tolkien's writings. And for that kind of very basic rudimentary idea of like dwarves, elves, hobbits, like it's fantastic. And that's one of the things I think stuck in my mind as a kid reading it, of just like he's a thief and there's a map with like weird secret instructions on it. All that stuff is great. So I think if anyone likes any type of fantasy, watch the movie and definitely read the book, because it's great for that.
This is the origin source of everything Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
It's all there.
A lot of high fantasy also.
Yeah.
A lot of Tolkien clones.
Yes.
So I guess the animated film, if you're a diehard fan or a diehard fan of any fantasy, not just Tolkien, I think it's a good watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might get, if you're a D&D player, you'll get some inspiration from it.
Absolutely.
Because there are many interesting ideas in this 86-year-old book.
Oh, wait, just real quick. So whenever someone gets killed, the camera spins wildly or has some weird dissolve because it's for broadcast TV. I just thought that was really funny. And that's just like a quick aside of just, Julie was like, what just happened? I'm like, she's like, are they dead? And I'm like, yeah, but they died. This is just so weirdly random of just like sword strike, spin camera, weird dissolve.
It's just so fun for that reason. It
is. It's fun, silly, weird. It's a lot of
It's a peek into the past.
Yeah.
Well, there's our glowing recommendation for the 1977 Hobbit film. I hope Tolkien fans weren't too offended by this episode. But thank you both for joining me. This was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
And I think Lord of the Rings was released in July. So maybe come July we'll have a Lord of the Rings episode.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
Stay tuned, listeners. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.